I, 28F, have been living with my boyfriend Todd, 30M, for the past 2 years in a cozy apartment in the city. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue 5 years ago and hit it off immediately. Todd's dry sense of humor and passion for obscure indie bands complemented my more outgoing nature and love for classic rock. After 3 years of dating, we decided to move in together, a decision that our families fully supported. We're both busy professionals. I work as a marketing manager for a mid-sized tech company, and Todd is a software engineer at a startup. Our careers keep us on our toes, but we always make time for each other, whether it's cooking elaborate meals together on weekends or binge-watching the latest Netflix series. My younger sister Barbara, 24F, has always been the baby of the family. Growing up, she was the princess, always getting her way with our parents. I remember countless times when I had to give up my plans to babysit her or when my achievements were overshadowed by her latest accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, I love Barbara, but our relationship has always been complicated. Barbara met her now husband Earl, 26M, in college. They were the classic opposites attract couple, Barbara, the bubbly theater major, and Earl, the quiet engineering student. Despite their differences, they seemed to balance each other out perfectly. I still remember the day Barbara called me, squealing with excitement, to tell me Earl had proposed. It was during their graduation trip to Europe, on top of the Eiffel Tower. Very romantic and very Barbara. They had a beautiful wedding 6 months ago. I was the maid of honor, and despite the stress of organizing the bachelorette party and helping with all the wedding preparations, I was genuinely happy for my sister. The wedding was a lavish affair. Our parents spared no expense for their youngest daughter. There were ice sculptures, a 7-tier cake, and even a fireworks display at the end of the night. Earl looked a bit overwhelmed by it all, but he seemed happy. Everything seemed perfect in Barbara's world until last week when she called me out of the blue, sobbing uncontrollably. At first, I couldn't understand what she was saying. I thought maybe she and Earl had a fight or something had happened to our parents. When she finally calmed down enough to speak, she told me she was pregnant. I was surprised but excited for her. However, as we talked more, I realized why she was so upset. Apparently, Earl had always been clear about not wanting kids, at least not for another 5 to 6 years. He wanted to focus on his career and save up for a house before starting a family. Barbara, on the other hand, had always wanted to be a young mom. She used to talk about it all the time when we were teenagers, how she wanted to have kids before she turned 25 so she could be a cool mom. As Barbara continued to talk, she dropped a bombshell. She confessed that she had stopped taking her birth control pills without telling Earl, hoping she'd get pregnant and he'd come around to the idea once it happened. I was shocked and disappointed in Barbara's behavior. It brought back memories of all the times she had manipulated situations to get her way when we were younger, but this was on a whole different level. I told Barbara she needed to tell Earl the truth immediately. She protested, saying she was afraid he'd leave her, but I insisted that honesty was the only way forward. I reminded her of how much Earl valued trust in their relationship. He had mentioned it in his wedding vows, for crying out loud. 2 days later, Barbara called me again. She had told Earl everything, and he was furious. He felt betrayed and said he needed time to think. He packed a bag and went to stay with his parents for a while. Barbara was distraught, alternating between crying and getting angry at Earl for abandoning her. Barbara begged me to talk to Earl on her behalf. She wanted me to explain to him how much she loved him and how she only did it because she wanted to start a family with him. I refused, telling her that she had made her bed and now had to lie in it. This wasn't something I could fix for her. She got angry and accused me of not supporting her in her time of need. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't condone what she had done. A week passed, and I got a call from our mom. She was livid with me for not supporting Barbara. She said that as her older sister, it was my duty to stand by her no matter what. Mom insisted that I should host a baby shower for Barbara to show my support and help her reconcile with Earl. She even suggested that I should offer to let Barbara stay with Todd and me if Earl didn't come around soon. I was torn. On one hand, I love my sister and want to support her. We may have had our differences growing up, but she's still my little sister. On the other hand, I can't ignore the fact that she deceived her husband about something so important. I kept thinking about how devastated Earl must feel. I told my mom I'd think about it, but internally, I was leaning towards not getting involved. Yesterday, I got a group text from Barbara. She had created an online baby registry and was asking everyone to buy gifts. The items on the list were ridiculously expensive. The cheapest thing was a $200 baby monitor. There were designer baby clothes, a $1,000 stroller, and even a $500 diaper bag. At the bottom of the message, she wrote, "Since Earl is being difficult, I need all the support I can get. Please show your love for the baby by purchasing something from this list. I was appalled by her entitlement. It reminded me of how she used to expect expensive gifts for every birthday and Christmas when we were kids, while I was always told to be grateful for whatever I received. I decided not to respond to the message, hoping she'd take the hint. This morning, I woke up to a barrage of texts from Barbara, asking why I hadn't bought anything yet. She said that as her sister, I should be the first to buy a gift, and that my silence was hurting her. She even had the audacity to suggest specific items from the list that she thought Todd and I could afford. I finally replied, telling her that I couldn't afford such expensive gifts and that I was uncomfortable with the whole situation. I reminded her that Todd and I were saving up for our own future and couldn't spend hundreds of dollars on baby gifts right now. Barbara exploded, calling me selfish and unsupportive. She said if I really cared about her and my future niece or nephew, I'd find a way to buy something from the list. She brought up how our parents had helped me with a down payment on my first car when I was in college, implying that I owed it to the family to be generous now. Our mom called me again, siding with Barbara. She suggested I should take out a loan if I couldn't afford the gifts. I was stunned. I told her that was ridiculous and that Barbara's behavior was unacceptable. Mom then accused me of being jealous of Barbara's pregnancy, bringing up the fact that Todd and I had been together longer but weren't married or having kids yet. Now, my entire family is mad at me. They're saying I'm choosing Earl over my own sister and that I'm being cruel to a pregnant woman. Even some of our cousins have reached out to me on social media, telling me I should be more supportive. Todd has been supportive of me throughout this ordeal, but even he thinks I should just buy something small to keep the peace. He doesn't want this to cause a rift between me and my family. But I can't help feeling that if I give in now, I'll be enabling Barbara's behavior, just like our parents have done her entire life. I feel like I'm going crazy. Am I really in the wrong here? Should I cave in and buy a gift to appease Barbara? Or should I stand my ground? I keep second-guessing myself, wondering if I'm overreacting or if my complicated history with Barbara is clouding my judgment. Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have only gotten more complicated. I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It's been invaluable during this difficult time. After my last post, I decided to stand my ground and not buy anything from Barbara's registry. Instead, I sent her a heartfelt email explaining my feelings. I told her that while I love her and want to support her, I couldn't condone her actions or her current behavior. I also expressed my concerns about her relationship with Earl and suggested she seek couples counseling. I spent hours drafting that email, trying to strike the right balance between being honest and being kind. I even had Todd read it over to make sure I wasn't coming across as too harsh. I thought that by putting my feelings in writing, Barbara might be more receptive to what I had to say. Barbara's response was not what I hoped for. She forwarded my email to our entire extended family, adding her own commentary about how I was abandoning her in her time of need. This led to a flood of messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins, all urging me to do the right thing and support Barbara. Our Aunt Susan, who has always been close to Barbara, called me and gave me a lecture about family loyalty. She brought up how she had helped me find my first internship in marketing and implied that I owed it to the family to support Barbara now. Uncle Mike, who usually stays out of family drama, sent me a long text about how pregnancy is a difficult time for women and that I should be more understanding. The situation came to a head last weekend at our grandmother's 80th birthday celebration. I had been hesitant to attend, knowing Barbara would be there, but I didn't want to miss this important family event. Our grandmother, Margaret, has always been the glue that held our family together. She raised 5 children as a single mother after our grandfather passed away young, and she's always been a source of wisdom and comfort for all of us grandkids. As soon as I arrived at the party, which was held in the community center of Grandma's retirement village, I could feel the tension in the room. Barbara was holding court near the punch bowl, showing off her barely visible baby bump and talking about how excited she was to be a mom. When she saw me, she loudly announced, "Oh, look who decided to show up. I guess you could afford the gas to drive here, even if you can't afford a simple gift for your future niece or nephew." I tried to ignore her and focus on celebrating our grandmother, but Barbara wouldn't let up. She kept making snide comments throughout the day, and most of the family seemed to be encouraging her behavior. She talked about how she was eating for 2 and needed extra servings of everything, pointedly asking me if I was watching my figure since I wasn't pregnant. Even our grandmother, who has always been a voice of reason in family disputes, told me I should be more supportive of my sister. "Family is all we have in the end," she said, patting my hand. "You'll understand when you have children of your own." The final straw came during the gift giving. Barbara had bought our grandmother an expensive piece of jewelry, a gold locket with space for family photos inside. She made a big show of presenting it, talking about how the baby's picture would go in there soon. As everyone oohed and ahed, she turned to me and said, "See, this is how you show love for your family." But I guess some people are just too selfish to understand that. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up and addressed the whole family. I told them about Barbara's deception, how she had tricked Earl into getting her pregnant. I explained that while I loved Barbara, I couldn't support her actions or her current entitled behavior. I said that real family support meant being honest with each other, not enabling harmful behavior. The room fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Barbara burst into tears and ran out, nearly knocking over the punch bowl in her haste. My mom started yelling at me for ruining Grandma's birthday and airing our dirty laundry in public. Most of the family looked shocked and uncomfortable. Aunt Susan tried to smooth things over, suggesting we all calm down and have some cake. Uncle Mike muttered something about young people these days and poured himself another drink. My cousins were whispering among themselves, occasionally shooting glances my way. I left shortly after, feeling a mix of relief at finally speaking my truth and guilt for causing a scene at what should have been a happy family event. Todd, who had witnessed the whole thing, told me he was proud of me for standing up for myself, but worried about the fallout. Now, I'm getting messages from family members who were at the party. Some are apologizing for pressuring me, saying they didn't know the whole story. Cousin Rachel, who's always been a bit of a rebel in the family, sent me a supportive text saying she admired my courage. Others are still angry, saying I had no right to reveal Barbara's private information. Uncle Mike, in particular, sent me a strongly worded email about respect and family values. Barbara herself hasn't contacted me directly, but she's been posting vague, dramatic statuses on social media about toxic family members and staying strong in the face of adversity. She's also been sharing a lot of quotes about the importance of motherhood and how blood is thicker than water. I stand by what I said, but I'm worried about the long-term consequences for our family relationships. Grandma's birthday has always been a big family event, a time when we all come together despite our differences. I feel guilty for disrupting that tradition. Todd has been incredibly supportive throughout all of this. He's offered to run interference with my family if needed and has been a patient listener when I need to vent. But I can tell he's worried about how this might affect our relationships with my family in the long term. I'm also starting to wonder how this will impact future family events. Will I be uninvited from Thanksgiving dinner? Will there be tension at every gathering from now on? And what about when the baby is born? Will I be allowed to be part of my niece or nephew's life? I stand by my decision not to enable Barbara's behavior, but I'm struggling with the fallout. Has anyone else dealt with a family rift like this? How did you move forward? Any advice on how to navigate family gatherings in the future would be greatly appreciated. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and the situation has taken some unexpected turns. I appreciate everyone who has been following this saga and offering advice. About 2 weeks ago, I received a surprising phone call from Earl, Barbara's husband. He had heard about what happened at our grandmother's birthday party and wanted to talk. We agreed to meet for coffee at a small cafe halfway between our homes. When I arrived at the cafe, I found Earl already there, looking tired and a bit disheveled. As we sat down with our coffees, he filled me in on his side of the story. Apparently, after Barbara's revelation about stopping her birth control, Earl had indeed gone to stay with his parents. But it wasn't just to think things over, he was actually meeting with a lawyer to discuss his options. He felt completely betrayed by Barbara and was considering divorce. Earl confided that he had always been clear with Barbara about his timeline for having children. They had discussed it at length before getting married, and he thought they were on the same page. Finding out that she had deliberately deceived him had shaken his trust to the core. However, after a lot of soul-searching and conversations with his family, Earl decided to give the marriage another chance. He told me he still loves Barbara, despite everything, and wants to be there for his child. They've started couples therapy and are trying to work through their issues. Earl thanked me for standing up for him at the family gathering, even though he wasn't there. He said it meant a lot to him that someone in Barbara's family understood the gravity of what she had done. He admitted that he had been avoiding contact with our family because he didn't know how to face them knowing what Barbara had done. I was relieved to hear that Earl and Barbara were working things out, but I was still wary. I asked Earl if Barbara had shown any remorse for her actions or her recent behavior towards me. His hesitation told me everything I needed to know. He admitted that while Barbara was trying to make things right with him, she was still angry with me for betraying her at the birthday party. As we were finishing our coffees, Earl asked if I would be willing to meet with him and Barbara together, as part of their reconciliation process. I told him I'd think about it, but I was hesitant. The idea of facing Barbara after everything that had happened was daunting. A few days after meeting with Earl, I got another call, this time from my mom. Her tone was completely different from our previous conversations. She apologized for pressuring me to support Barbara unconditionally and admitted that she had been so focused on becoming a grandmother that she had overlooked the seriousness of Barbara's actions. Mom explained that after the birthday party fiasco, she and Dad had a long talk with Barbara. They made it clear that while they love her and will support her pregnancy, they don't approve of how she deceived Earl or how she's been treating me. They've cut off the extra financial support they were giving her. Apparently, they were funding a lot of the items on that baby registry, and told her she needs to take responsibility for her actions. This conversation with Mom was a breakthrough. For the first time, I felt like my parents were seeing the situation clearly, rather than just indulging Barbara as they had always done. Mom even shared some of her own fears and insecurities about becoming a grandmother, which helped me understand her initial reaction a bit better. Barbara, for her part, seems to be slowly coming to terms with the consequences of her actions. She sent me a text message, not quite an apology, but an acknowledgement that she had been unfair to me. The message read, "Hey sis, I know things have been really messed up between us. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Can we talk soon?" It wasn't much, but it was a start. I've agreed to meet with Barbara next week, but I've made it clear that I expect a full apology and a change in her behavior going forward. The family is still somewhat divided. Some relatives think I should just forgive and forget for the sake of family harmony. Aunt Susan, in particular, keeps sending me links to articles about the importance of sisterly bonds. Others have reached out to say they admire me for standing my ground. Cousin Rachel even invited me over for dinner, saying she wanted to hear the whole story without family drama getting in the way. As for Todd and me, this whole situation has led to some serious conversations about our own future. We've always been on the same page about wanting kids eventually, but now we're discussing timeline, expectations, and the importance of open communication in more detail. Todd admitted that seeing the turmoil in my family had made him a bit anxious about the idea of starting our own, which led to a long, emotional talk about our fears and hopes for the future. I'm nervous about meeting with Barbara, but I'm trying to approach it with an open mind. I know we have a lot to work through, and it won't be resolved in one conversation. But I'm hopeful that this could be the first step towards healing our relationship. I'll update again after I meet with Barbara. Wish me luck. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in this ongoing family drama. I met with Barbara as planned at a quiet park near our parents' house. We used to come here as kids to feed the ducks, and being back here brought up a lot of memories. The conversation was tense at first, with both of us unsure how to start. But as we walked around the pond, Barbara finally broke down and admitted that she had been wrong. She apologized for deceiving Earl, for her entitled behavior regarding the baby gifts, and for how she had treated me. Barbara explained that she had been so caught up in her desire to have a baby that she lost sight of everything else, including the potential consequences of her actions. She said that the couple's therapy with Earl has been eye-opening, making her realize the damage she's done to their relationship and to her connections with the rest of the family. Barbara shared that she's been diagnosed with anxiety and has started seeing a therapist on her own in addition to the couple's counseling. She admitted that her fixation on having a baby stemmed partly from feeling like she was falling behind in life compared to her friends and to me. It was a vulnerable moment, and I found myself empathizing with her despite everything that had happened. While I appreciated her apology, I made it clear that rebuilding our relationship would take time. I told her I was willing to work on it, but that I needed to see consistent change in her behavior. We agreed to start having regular sister dates, like we used to when we were younger, to reconnect and rebuild trust. Since that conversation, things have been slowly improving. Barbara has stopped posting entitled messages on social media and has taken down the extravagant baby registry. She and Earl are focusing on preparing for the baby in a more realistic way, and they've both been making an effort to mend fences with the family. Our parents have maintained their stance of loving support combined with clear boundaries. They're excited about becoming grandparents but are no longer indulging Barbara's every whim. This seems to be having a positive effect on Barbara's behavior. Mom has even started attending Al-Anon meetings, saying she wants to learn how to support Barbara without enabling harmful behavior. As for the rest of the family, opinions are still divided, but the extreme reactions have calmed down. Most relatives seem to be taking a wait-and-see approach, which I think is healthy. Aunt Susan has stopped sending me guilt-tripping messages, and Uncle Mike actually called to apologize for his harsh words after Grandma's birthday party. Todd has been my rock throughout this entire ordeal. Our conversations about our future have brought us closer, and we're now tentatively planning to start trying for a baby of our own next year. We've both agreed that open communication will be the cornerstone of our approach to parenthood. Barbara is now 6 months pregnant, and despite the rocky start, excitement for the baby is building in the family. We're planning a small, intimate baby shower next month, nothing extravagant, just a simple celebration with close family and friends. Barbara asked me to help organize it, which I see as a positive sign. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. While the past few months have been challenging, I believe standing my ground was the right thing to do. It led to some difficult but necessary conversations in our family and has ultimately brought about positive change. There's still work to be done, and I know there will likely be bumps in the road ahead. But for now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my relationship with Barbara, supporting her and Earl as they prepare for parenthood, and looking forward to becoming an aunt. Thank you to everyone who has followed this story and offered support and advice along the way. It's been a wild ride, but I'm hopeful that we're finally on a path to healing and stronger family relationships.